again, go to Mr. Ng's website or to his YouTube channel. He will teach you to learn to love math again. Mr. Ng, the #1 math teacher in the whole world.
Okay, in 3.24, solve by factoring, you're going to do a couple things first. Number one, you're going to factor first. So use your 3.1 packet, count the number of terms, find the GCF. Then number two, you're going to solve. So factor, then solve. Okay, solving means the answer looks like this, x equals. Now, they're not going to tell you to solve and then factor. They're basically just going to tell you find the zeros. Well, find the zeros means first, you will do factoring, and then second, you'll set it equal to 0. What is that going to look like? When you do a problem, you're first over here going to factor, and then your answers usually have something like the parentheses, something like this, right? And then when you're done with that, you're going to do the second part, the solving, okay? So solving says you take your parentheses and you set it equal to 0. And then you're going to have some kind of answer, x equals. Okay? All right, let's go over this. So I have g of x equals, class, what's my GCF?
X.
3x squared minus 10x plus 8. When I asked you, could you use the quadratic formula? In purple, you can't, but after you take the GCF, if I cover up the GCF, then you can. Your a value is 3, b value is -10, c value is 8. If you factor it, you'll get what? X minus 4, x minus 6? Raise your hand if you got that. Look, quickly do this x box again. A times c, I'm looking inside here, is 24. Two numbers that multiply to be 24 is 4 and 6, and they add to be -10. They both have to be negative. But if you wrote the quantity x minus 4, x minus 6, and you FOIL, class, what's x times x?
X squared.
X squared, not 3x squared. So x minus 4, x minus 6 is correct. Incorrect, you have to put it into the box. Might need to watch some more factoring videos. -4x and -6x. You put in your first term. Did you guys notice where I'm looking? I'm looking inside the parentheses. So I have 3x squared, and the last term is 8. Class, what is the GCF of this column? 3x. How about this row? How about this column? And the GCF of this one? It would have to be a -2. Here's the reason why. If you multiply these, they'll get what you have inside the boxes. Okay? So I would have gone 3x minus 4, x minus 2. Okay? Well, what's the big old purpose of what we're doing here? We factored it so I can solve for my zeros or my x-intercepts, like that. I'm trying to find my x-intercepts here by factoring or using the quadratic formula. To do it by factoring, I'm just going to use the zero product rule. So I'm going to set each of those equal to 0. Everyone say, show me. Show me the zero product rule. Don't skip this step here. So I already have a solution here. I have x equals 0. You don't have to show me the work there. X equals what? 4/3, and x equals 2. So this graph, it's going to cross my x-axis how many times?
3.
3 times. Alright, so let's go ahead and try our problem. X squared minus 49. Let's just say I ask you to factor completely. X squared minus 49. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a greatest common factor. Well, I'm looking for really 3 terms, but I only see 2 of them. 1, and then this is the second one. So in this problem, I'm going to add a 0. And there's my 3 terms. 1, 2, and 3. The next thing I'm going to do is identify my A, B, and C. So there's the A, there's the B, there's the C. The next thing I'm going to do is put it into my X. So there's many ways of factoring. I'm showing you one method. So if you don't have one, just pick what I'm doing. Keep doing for the rest of your life. So I have this X. And in this X, I'm going to write letters A times C. And in the bottom of my X, I'm going to write B. Class, what's A times C? And what's our B value? 0. I need to think of 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 49. But those same 2 numbers need to be adding to equal 0. What do those 2 numbers cost? 7 and negative 7. So I've done the greatest common factor, ABC, I've done the X, and now I'm going to do the box. So let me color code this for you. The first term, you put in the top left of the box. The last one, your C term, goes in the bottom right, always. And the numbers that we just found go here. So I have a 1x squared. I have a negative 49. These 2, I'm going to have 7, and pay attention, I'm going to add an x, and I have here a negative 7x. So the only difference here in the green there is I added an x. So basically what this does is it splits the middle term. Now I'm going to find some numbers, or expressions, or terms. 2 terms that multiply to be 1x squared. That's going to be x and x. X times something up here that I need to think of will be negative 7x. That'll be negative 7. X times something, that'll be a positive 7. 7 times x equals 7x. 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. X squared minus 49 factors to be x plus 7, x minus 7. Remember, you can turn those around, doesn't matter. X minus 7 is the same thing as x plus 7. So either of these, you don't need both, are fully acceptable. Now let's say you do find a problem and it doesn't tell you just to factor, it tells you to solve. Okay, so let me show you the difference. Bring in colors here. Factoring is basically all of this. Okay? Solving is all of this plus more. Okay, so let me just show you how to solve. To solve, let's say you ever get a problem and they change the directions. It doesn't say factor completely, it says solve. All you have to do is set it equal to 0. What do you do, class? You just set this equal to 0. And then when you're solving here, 0 equals x minus 7, x plus 7. Well, that basically means one of these has to equal 0. So we use the 0 product rule. X minus 7 equals 0. X plus 7 equals 0. To solve it, you're going to get x equals 7 and x equals negative 7. So again, look at the problem. If it tells you to factor, you should be able to go from x squared minus 49. And if you just write these two, completely fine. This stuff in the middle, that's kind of just like helps you. It's not considered math work, because some people can go from here to there. If it tells you to solve, you're doing all these steps, and all you're doing additionally is just setting it equal to 0. Who wants to see the short way?
Actually, do it the long way.
Right. Who used rational roots theorem? Do you always have to use it?
No.
Ah, I wanted to test you. You can use rational roots theorem to get our answers. Or you can use other factoring methods. You can use factoring by grouping. That's the easiest way. What's my greatest common factor?
First, x squared. Or you can just do the box.
You don't have to. I'm just trying to show you guys different ways of solving the problem. So, common factor? Raise your hand if you got that so far. Now, can you factor that again? Two numbers that multiply to be 4 but add to be 0? Remember, this is not a difference of squares. It's prime. So this would be factored. Now to solve it, just set it equal to 0. X equals negative 6. Subtract 4. Remember, it is the square root of negative 1 times 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so it can come outside the house, and the square root of negative 1 is 1. Count with me the number of zeros. Ready, set, go. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. Question. You're stuck on this one? Remember, it's x squared plus 0x plus 4. And you're thinking like 2 and 2, but that will add to be 4. If you put negative and negative, that's positive 4, but that equals negative 4, not 0. Negative positive, that gives you negative 4. You see how none of those combinations work? Okay. Alright, let's say you wanted to graph this problem that we just did above by factoring. Let's just change it. 4x squared minus 81. And if you factored it, it would be essentially the same. So let's put a y in front of it. Now you have a function. Y equals 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9, right? That's how you factored it. And we apply something called the zero product rule. Everyone say zero product rule? So you could put right here, this is called factoring. And now we're doing zero product rule. Write that down. That says you can turn any part of a factored function and you set it equal to 0. Subtract 9. Divided by 2, and you get 9 halves, and over here you would get positive 9 halves. Raise your hand if you got that. Good? Class, are those my x or y intercepts? X. Those are my x intercepts. And then from here,
You could try putting a 0x and see if you're going to factor again, but if you're just finding the zeros, it's actually, you could just use zero product rule. 2x squared minus 1 equals 0. X squared minus 3 equals 0. Remember, when you're solving, you're doing PEMDAS backwards, so I'm going to add 1 both sides. Divide by 2. X squared equals 1/2. If I take the square root of both sides, remember when you take the square root, it'll be plus or minus. And you have radical 1 over radical 2. Don't forget you'll have to rationalize there. So this answer would be plus or minus radical 2 over 2. This one over here will be x squared equals equals 3. Take the square root, x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. If you chose the other method, you can just actually just put it in here. It's the same numbers, 6 and negative 7, negative 6 and negative 1. But when you do your box here, you're going to put in negative 6. This negative 6 here is splitting that term, so it's an x squared, not an x. Negative 1x squared, 2x to the 4th, and a 3. Then you're just looking to find your greatest common factor, so that would be 2x squared. This one would be just x squared. This would be a minus 1, and this one would be a minus 3, and then you can just solve it. So 2 ways to solve this problem to a power of 4. Remember, half of 4 is 2. So you can use either of these methods. We ran out of time to graph, so at least you can graph it by multiplicity. You have 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. Half of 4 is 2. In this problem, you couldn't do that because half of 5 is not 4. So this would kind of spell out why you should do the GCF first. Okay, I'm just going to use my X box method. A, B, C. A times C is negative 12. B value is negative 1. I know it's going to be 4 and 3. This will have to be negative. Multiplies to be negative 12. It has to be negative 1. This one goes up here. Down here always. Negative 4 and 3. These are splitting the middle term, so that'll be x squareds. Have an x squared in common. X squared. 3. 3 times x squared gives you 3x squared, negative 4. So I have x squared plus 3, x squared minus 4. Now this one you can turn into a 0x. You'll notice that this one wouldn't work, it's prime. A times C is negative 4, my B value is 0, 2 numbers are positive 2 and negative 2. Okay, so this is my answer for factoring. This is my green. Factor completely. Okay, to identify the zeros, I just set an equal to 0. So this one, subtract 3. Take the square root, pay attention. When you take the square root of an equation, you must have plus or minus. That's square root of negative 1 is I, and radical 3 stays. 2 complex. 2 reals. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives us 2, 4.
Missing formulas in life. Problems becoming too difficult to clear. Well then, you need Mr. Math Cleaning Solution. Just spray the liquid formula onto the mess, Then, wipe it clear and enjoy the result. Mr. Math. Stay clean and calculated. Order now at www.gpproductions.com and get an additional